was Wondery reached out to a wide variety of artists that come from different racial backgrounds and economic backgrounds, and also who identify as both trans and cisgender. Cisgender is the opposite of transgender, so identifying with the gender of the body that you're born into. And we had a big community conversation over at Karis Books up in Little Five Points, which is the feminist bookstore, and kind of had an open dialogue about gender as a fluid concept in the way that I think folks often talk about race as a social concept. We talked about gender. And then the artists really listened and then had a couple months to go away and make art, and they made art in response to the community conversation that we had an exhibition for. We had an exhibition and a panel discussion over at Poem 88 on the west side. And then the artists granted us the rights to reproduce the signs, and we are now in the kind of activism stage of the project, which involves going out to mobilizing volunteer teams and going out to businesses and restaurants and places of worship and individuals and asking them to actively change their bathroom signage so that it's more gender inclusive. So this is one of the ways that Wondery does programming that kind of uses art to talk about important social issues. We're gearing up to be the Atlanta Pride is coming up on October 11th and 12th, and we're gearing up to be the featured cultural exhibit there. So if you're in the park over Pride, come check us out. But this, to me, is a project I'm really excited about that I'm working on at Wondery, and I think that it is a meaningful, important project. It kind of links into what I and what a lot of us I think were saying before about not just identifying with the struggles that I face personally, because I don't, because I align with the gender binary and bathroom access isn't something that I think about, but thinking about how to be an ally and an appropriate one to other people's social justice battles. And I think that art is a really meaningful way to do that.
Amon, do you have a project you'd like to tell us that you worked on that you think art helps spread the message, even in your in the music? And I know you combine art a lot because we've all worked on art for you.
Yeah, I think music without the art is empty. You know what I mean? I'll probably say Soil Warrior Lessons was the first big thing that, like, big effort in my life to do something that really attacked the social issue, which was, black men dying. We had a loss in the music community. Is a producer named Jay Dilla. He passed, and I had a new son, and we named him Dilla. We contacted the family and named him Dilla, and then not too long after all of that, we lost a person here in Atlanta named Jax, and watching my family go through that, I was kind of new to Atlanta, so I didn't, know Jax a whole lot, but like watching, like when the center of a community disappears, you can tell, right? So it really impacted the people I love a lot, and it made me think, with all these people disappearing, to the circumstances that we have in the United States, what could we do to leave something for our children that was meaningful? And there's a lot of music that people would do poems and songwriting and so forth. So what I did is I contacted a friend of mine named Metaphysic. He's from New York. He's done production for people like Dead Prez and Immortal Technique and so forth. And we both had this habit of combining, like, just, for our own personal use, we would take, like, stuff from films, sound bites and stuff, like the Wu-Tang Clan, It kind of started that. So, we would take these sound bites from films and stuff and put it on top of instrumentals, and that was just our thing. And we both, like, got along in that way. So I had this idea once, and I called him, and I was like, yo, Father's Day is in, like, 30 days. Why don't we, like, call some of the men that we really respect and get them to leave us voicemails and send us recordings, because, we in a recording community, you know what I mean? Like, either one of these guys, if they had to go to a recording studio, could make it happen in the same day, you know what I mean? So I called a lot of these people. We actually gathered 80 Black and Latino men's recordings in put them on top of instrumentals. And the question that we asked everybody was, if you only had 15 seconds to leave to your child as words of wisdom, what would you choose to share with them, right? For them to pass on from generation to generation. And that's a real heavy question, you know what I mean? It makes you really think about what's important to you in life, and then try to convey it in a short period of time. So, literally 80 people that we didn't call anybody we didn't know. We called 80 people that we knew, like the people, old high school teacher, you know what I mean, this guy, that guy. And we wanted men, and we wanted black men in particular, because we're like ostracized, like we don't care about our children. But that's a social conditioning thing. It doesn't really have anything to do with not caring about your children, you know what I mean? So we wanted to display, I really know a vast, way larger community of men that are active in their kids' lives than men that are not. And this is a lie that the media likes to tell. So we wanted to create something when people start digging back into music, and it's not to take it's not a jab at what, you hear on the radio. So I'm gonna throw a name out, like let's say Jeezy or something, right? It's not that it's bad, it's just when children later on in life, they go back and they research. So when they go back and they research, I didn't want them to come back and find only what's being played on V103. You see what I'm saying? And not find something by someone like Flux. So I said, leave these recordings. I don't want any poems. I don't want any, singing, none of that. And they just talked about wisdom. And we took that, put it over instrumentals, and we released it for free on Father's Day in the nick of time. And what was crazy is the following year, after making this record, he had a brand new daughter as well, right? And so he was excited. The following year, because remember I called him 30 days before the record started, the following year he passed away in a car wreck, right? So now his daughter has these recordings, which is huge. And we were talking about the burden earlier. That's a big burden because, for me, it took me, 3 to 4, I think it took me 4 years to get back to a place where I could do the second record, and continue that. So this year, I started contacting families to do a record that kind of bridges the gap and talks about the issues in our families that we don't want to talk about, right? So that to me is one thing I could think of that we've done that kind of, uses art as a weapon and a tool to teach and allow people to, if you listen to a speech, you can take a speech by anybody, JFK, great speech. You put an instrumental over that speech, it's more palatable, it's easier to digest, and we teach our children through music. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? So it's easier for you to memorize if you use music. So that was part of the reason that we did it, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And that the Father's Day record is still available online?
Yeah, it's called Soil the Warrior Lessons. It's still free. All I ask for is your email address so that we can tell you when new stuff comes out. So.
And then we can go to salemsongs.com for that.
I would just search that. It's actually oursoil.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
But you can search, it's easy to find. Just Soil the Warrior Lessons.
So the question that I have, and then after this we'll open the floor, is how do you pick the message, or does the message pick you? And where do you go looking for your collaborators? Or are they within arm's reach already? So we'll start with Jennifer and work our way to Jennifer, and then Amon, and then we'll work our way in the middle.
Okay. I'm thinking. I think that in many ways the message picks you, and it's the lens in which you most easily experience the world, and your kind of lived experience, and then kind of where it bubbles out from there and where it takes you. So I guess I think the message chooses you, and then you choose where to take the message. In terms of finding collaborators, I think at Wonderroot that happens when it's really lovely to work at Wonderroot for this reason, because it happens mostly when people come knock on the door and say, I do this and I want to do something with the arts and this is what's important to me. And like I said, I'm not an artist, so I don't make my own work. I certainly have my own, interest areas, things that are more exciting to me than others, but mostly it's when community members come and say, I want to do a project about LGBT advocacy, or I want to do a project about domestic violence, or whatever it is. And then we sit down and we talk about if what it looks like and the ways that we could use art to kind of explore that social issue, and then we go from there. And then I guess my role as kind of the arts organizer or administrator is to reach out to artists and find artists who are particularly passionate about the issue, and then to kind of build from there. So I guess I would say I feel really lucky that that while some ideas are certainly internally generated, a lot of the social justice work happens when people come to wonder.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't really typically choose a thing. It just happens, really, for me mostly. Something like, Soul said, it'll just like needle you, you know what I mean? Like something that just kind of sticks with you that you can't let go of, and it's just like on your conscience to do something, and then eventually you have to do it. And as far as working with people, I'm a workaholic, so I kind of don't really see, if I'm not working with you or you're not a member of my family, I probably don't see you, you know what I mean? So the right people are just kind of, he was at my house the other day, and so was, not in the last 7 days, they've both been to the house. You know what I mean? And we've done a lot of business then, and, a lot of collaborative work. So, yeah, I think people, if you're living in the energy that you're supposed to be living in, then that stuff kind of aligns itself.
Yeah. Go for it, Mr. Soul. I know you're ready.
What was the first question? Oh, picking up. I guess it's probably a little bit of both for me. I listen to a lot of music, and so I might hear something, a verse, and I'll pick that verse and decide that I want to create a visual for that particular verse or phrase or whatever. I might see a picture and decide that I want to say something, On the flip side, again, like the Troy Davis show that was chosen, we did one for Oscar Grant, and same thing. It was just shit keep happening, so we keep having to
address the same.
Well, the same, but I think we're addressing a lot of different issues with that same issue being the catalyst. Is that people in general got to stand up, and do something, because just because they in my community killing me now, they'll be in yours next year, They're ready for all of us. So sometimes it's both. And then what was the second part?
How do you find collaborators?
Just like what he said, I couldn't have said it no better. If you're doing what you're supposed to do in life and you're in the energy wave and the vibration of what you say you about and what you represent, and the people you collaborate with, whether it's for positivity, motivation, and inspiration through art, or it's robbing banks and drinking 40s and whatever, you know what I'm saying? If you're in the energy, or whatever energy that you're attracting is going to be the outcome and output of your existence and what you do. So I eat, sleep, drink. I don't even have a life other than art. I don't even know what I would be doing if I would probably be bored to death if I didn't have art. So I'm always around creative people, so that when it's time to do a show or to do something creatively, email, phone call, text message away, I got a pretty good network of creative people who walk in that same light with me. So it makes it easy.
Mr. Flux?
Yeah, I agree with Soul. For the first part, it's like sometimes being a designer, you know what I mean, you used to having to target certain messages, you know what I mean, or target certain audiences rather. So, certain times as a creative individual, you want to say something about something. So